Kakadosh Boker Or. I wanted to share with you Daf Yomi Masechet Bava Kamma Daf Yud Zayin Mud Aleph. So we were 117a1. We are talking about right now the story with Rav Huna Bar Chia that he asked Rav Nachman, was this a halacha or not halacha? The fact that he went and he made the guy pay because he showed the property to the goyim. So what happened is that he asked, Idina Knasa. So he says, Amarle, he told him, Idina, if it's going to be the law, so we're going to learn it. But if it's a knasa, if it's going to be a knasa, fine, a penalty, we don't always go by it, and therefore, lo gamnina mine. So says the Gemara, Umena teimra, how do we know that mi knasa lo gamnina, and that we're not going to learn from a knas? Titanya, as we learned in a braita. But Ishona yomrim, at the beginning they used to say, Hamtameh v'amnasech. That means they used to say that if you're going to be mitameh, right, your friend's food. Imagine you have fruit. I come b'chavana, boom, ani mitameh ota. Or menasech, I make it yain nesech. So I would have thought at the beginning, right, that is called a hezek sheno nikar. Why is it hezek sheno nikar? I can't see the nezek. It's tameh. You could see tuma, you can't see tuma. You're right, the big tzaddikim, they could see the tuma. But other than, what do you look? It looks the exact same thing. Nobody's going to know. So he says it's not nikar. And kansu chachamim, that's a knas. Chazru lomar, then they even said, afa medamea, which means even you're going to mix, right? Whether it's going to be perot of chulin with perot of truma. So you mixed up different fruits, truma and chulin. So he says, chazru in. Lo chazru, lo. That's only if you were chazru, but not if you didn't do it. So my time, what's the reasoning? Lam yishum, right? Lam yishum de knasa. Or we're not going to come and say that it's because of knas. Uknasa lo gamnir mine. We don't learn from knas. What does that mean? We don't learn from knas. Okay? So answers the Gemara, no, it's not true. Shemiikara savri, at the beginning they held, hefsem merubeh chasheshu, hefsem muat lo chasheshu. At the beginning they went, right, and they said, right, at the beginning they went and they said, right, that it's going to be considered hefsem merubeh. What do I mean hefsem merubeh? Hefsem merubeh means that it's going to be a very great loss. So metameh menasech was hefsem merubeh, their chachamim came and they made a knas. But hefsem muat, for example, medamea, so therefore there, they didn't say why, because at the end of the day, you still have to take out maaser again. But it's not hefsem, but when you make it tameh, gamarnu, right? They make it gamarnu. You understand? Fine. So says the Gemara, any is it so? Vatani, so we said, Avu ad Rabbi Avin berishona, he says, Avu ad Rabbi Avin came and he said like this. Berishona, at the beginning, they used to say, Ametameh v'amedamea, which means somebody that's going to be metameh the tarot of somebody else. And medamea, which means that he's going to come and he's going to, medamea is to mix up, right, the perot of chulin with truma. Chazru lomar, and then afterwards they went and they added minasech. Minasech is making it yain nesech. So chazru in, lo chazru lo. So only because they added in minasech, you're going to obligate him to pay. But at the beginning, no. My tama, what's the reasoning? Lam yishum de lo gamnim, we cannot learn from a knas. Which means like this, again, one more time, how are we trying to understand what we're talking about? We're trying to understand what we're talking about, that we do not learn from knasot. So you don't learn from a knas, that's why he wanted to find out, is it a din or is it a knas? If it's a din, we learn from it. If it's a knas, we don't learn from penalties, from fines, right? Sometimes I have to come and I have to give a penalty to someone, right? I have to give them a fine, right? Because they don't behave, right? They think they're in a shuk. So you give them a ticket, right? But you can't learn from that the din, right? You can't learn from that din. Okay? So answers the Gemara, no. Mikara Savri, at the beginning, he held ki Rabbi Avin. What does that mean at the beginning he held like Rabbi Avin? He comes to himself, he held like Rabbi Avin. But at the end he held like Rabbi Yirmiyah, which means that there was going to be a difference, right, in the entire concept of Rabbi Avin and Rabbi Yirmiyah. Remember, the difference between Rabbi Ami, right, was the entire concept. Rabbi Avin was which one did they add in afterwards. Okay? Fine. Mikara Savri. Yeah, he comes and he says this. At the beginning, he held like Rabbi Avin. Ta'amar Rabbi Avin, zarach chetz mitchilat arba lesof arba, ve'kara shirayim balichato patur. Imagine right now you're going to throw, right, on Shabbat a chetz birshut arabim. Right? Chetz, tzitziot, whatever. Basically, he comes and he throws an arrow, right, on Shabbat, in the middle of public, right, in the middle. People are walking by. There, birshut arabim. He threw it from the beginning of 4 amot to the end of 4 amot. So now, obviously, by doing that, you're over on Hotza'ah. Yeah? So you're chayav, Hotza'ah, Chalel Shabbat. Yeah. So what happens is that on the way it was kara shirain palichato, which means while it was traveling, it tore someone's clothing. Okay, patur. He's going to be patur. Why is he going to be patur? Well, obviously because kim lebed rabbamineh, which means we give him the stricter punishment, and therefore he's going to be patur. Shareh ha'akira tzorech hanachahi, because the akira was necessary for hanacha. Umitchayev benafsho, and he's going to be mitchayev benafsho. So therefore, since he's going to be chayav mitah, so therefore, right, he's going to be ulvasof. Ulvasof, and at the end, Sabri Rabbi Yirmiyah. He held like Rabbi Yirmiyah. Ta'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, because says Rabbi Yirmiyah, Mishat Hagba'ah Kanya. From the time of the Hagba'ah, he's going to come and he's going to be Koneh. V'chayev le mamon. And he's going to be chayav mamon. Okay? Umitchayev benafsho lo havi al shata nisuch. But he's not going to be chayav until the time of the nisuch. Which means like this. At the beginning he was learning that since they both come at the exact same time, right, it doesn't help. Right? Why doesn't it help? It's kivnei b'rabamina, so you don't have to pay. It's either you pay or you get killed. You don't do both. But here, he's coming and saying now, like in the Shita of Rabbi Yirmiyah, that the second that you pick up the wine, you acquire it, and you're chayav on the gezel. So you have to pay for the money. And then it's chayev le mamon umitchayev benafsho lo ahavi ad shata nisuch, until the time of the nisuch. Okay? Fine. Rav Huna bar Yehuda ikla be, right, Abiyoneh. So Rav Huna bar Yehuda once went to visit to a place called Be Aviyoneh. Ata lekame de Rava, and he came in front of Rava. Amarle, so he comes and he says as follows. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. Israel shans. He says like this. Ata lekame de Rava. Amarle, he told him, Kluma seva lecha. Did you have any stories? I want to do shimush. Tell me a story. I'm going to learn from it. So Amarle, he told him, Israel shansu uvdei kochavi veram amon chavero bal yadi. There was a story. A Israel came on Asim. They told him, give me properties. So he went and he showed his friend's property. Yeah? What's the address? Yeah? It's on, yeah? So, it's on Emerson. Yeah? What's the address? So he went, yeah, so he comes and he wanted to find out. So what happens is, v'chiyavtiv, I made him chayav. Yeah, Elmaleh, he comes and he says, Ader uvda lemarei, right? Go give the money back. Titania, as we learned in a Braita, Yisrael shansu of dekochavi veram amon chavero patur, v'im natal v'natan bayad hayav. He comes and he says, we learned a Braita that says mefurash you're patur. Are you listening? Yeah? Yeah? He says, right, that it's going to be patur, but if you took it with your hands and you give it to him, you're going to be chayav. Okay? So, Amar Rabba comes and he says, if he's going to show the mamon chavero me'atzmo, then it's kinasam v'natam biyad dami. Then it's considered that you did it on your own. Meaning like this, one more time. According to what we just saw, he comes and he says, give back the money. Why did he tell him give back the money? Not like what we learned before. Here he's saying, shh. Right? Why? He's coming and he's saying, because he have a Braita. The Braita says, Yisrael shansu of dekochavi veram amon chavero patur. There's a Braita that says you're patur, even if you're going to be muhsar mamon chavero, right? And therefore he comes and he says, but even though the Braita just says you're going to be patur, if you come and you take it with your hands and you give it over, you're going to be chayav. So now he comes and he gives the chidush and says Rabba, but if he shows it on his own, meaning before we were talking about that the goyim came to him and tell him with a gun, give me the properties. So now he's forced. So he comes and he starts showing properties. But if he comes on his own, yeah, you know how some people they are. They come, they want to be the goodies. So they come to people and they come and they start saying, by the way, here, take this one, that. Mareh me'atzmo, he's going to be chayav. Why? Nasam v'natan b'yad dami. Because that is considered nasam v'yatan. 1 minute. Says the Gemara, another story also. Hau Gavra was a person. Tansu of the kochavim ve'achvi achamra. So he showed the wine of Rav Mari bered Rav Pinchas bered Rav Hasta. So he went, there was a story, a guy came, they forced him the goyim, and he went and he showed the wine of Rav Mari, the son of Rav Pinchas, the son of Rav Hasta. Amrule, they told him, Dari ve'amti ba'adan. Pick up the wine, right, and take it with us. Dara ve'amti ba'adan. So he picked it up and he brought it. Ata lekamed Ravashi. He came in front of Ravashi. Patrin. He said it's patur. Amru le Rabbanav le Ravashi. 1 second. The Rabbanan come. They tell Ravashi. V'atanya nasam nata biyad chayav. He says, but if he picked it up and he took it, he's going to be chayav. Amar le, he said, Hanimili chadelo ukmi lave meikar. If they didn't come to him in the beginning. But if they already came to him already, right, and then mikle kalye, so therefore the money was already burnt. Meaning, this rabbi thought that the fact that he actually picked it up and walked it with them, he should be chayav in such a case. Says the Gemara, no, he's not going to be chayav in such a case. Says why? Because the fact that he already was forced to show them the money, so therefore it was already burnt, it was already gone. So even though he had to pick it up and he had to walk it with them, he's still going to be patur. So the Gemara is going to ask, Eitvei, Rabbi Avul Ravashi, Amar lo anas, hoshit li pekia, amir, ze, o eshkol anavim ze, vehoshit lo chayav. They asked Ravashi, what are you talking about? Here it's written mefurash, that if you have an anas, that he tells a Jew, give me this bundle of straw, or give me this cluster of grapes, and he gives it to him, he's going to be chayav. So that means even though he was already obligated, as if to say in the money, it's not that considered that he was just burnt. No, he's still chayav. So answers the Gemara, no, the guy couldn't have gotten it without you. Meaning it was on two sides of the river. So since it was two sides of the rivers, if the Jew wouldn't have given it to the goy, he wouldn't have got it. So therefore the Jew is chayav l'shalem because the guy could have gotten it. Right? That's why it says hoshit. The lotani 10. That's why he says pass it over. It doesn't say give. Pass it over. Shema mina. That's what we actually learn. Another story also. Hahu shuta dehavu minsu ale betre. Right? There was a malkodet of dagim. Right? Or chayot. So there was a trap. Whether it's for fish or whether it's going to be of wild animals. That there was a machlok between two different people. Right? Huh? Yeah, yeah. Ha mardidihu. Each one came and they said it's mine. Yeah? Each one said it's my trap. I trapped him. The other guy said, no, it's my trap. I trapped him. So one of them went and he gave it to the Pekida Melech. He went and he gave it to the Goyim. Amar Abaye says, he could say, Ana ki mase didi mase. I gave it. But kishemasri what happened? I gave it was mine. Yeah? I gave over something that's mine.
Why would you do it to begin with? Why give it to the Pekid?
Again, he got into a fight with the guy. He says, this guy's going to try to take it away from me. He gave it to the goy. So Elmaleh Rava comes and he says, Vechol kemine, can he actually do that? He's going to give it to the goy and say he's giving his own? Ela Amar Rava, but rather Rava says, Meshamtina le demaiti le v'kai bedina. He says, no, we put him in idui until he goes to beti. Right? Why? Because we want to actually find out what's going on. What is halakha? You can't just come and give it to the thing. Yeah? Another story. Hahu gavre dabebai achvete itzivna dechavre. There was a person that he wanted to show the tevin of his friend to the Pekida Melech. Atu lekemed Rav. He came in front of Rav. Elmaleh, he comes and he says, La tachve ve la tachve. Don't show it. Don't show it. Yeah, that's what he says. Don't show it. So Elmaleh, he said, no, machvina. I'm going to show it. So Yativ Rav Kahana kamed Rav. So Rav Kahana was sitting in front of Rav. Shamte leku emine. Yeah, which means he broke he killed him. He killed him on the spot. Kari Rav Ilave, so Rav went and said in him, Panai chulfu shachvu berosh kol chutzot ketom mechmar. The pasuk is talking about the Bnei Yisrael when they're going to be under the shliton of the Ovdei Kochavim. They're like a shor bar. It's like a wild ox which is trapped. Mato, just like this shor. Keshkeven shenafal mamichmar. Once he's trapped, em rachamim alav. They don't have mercy on him. So too Mamon Yisrael keven shenafal em rachamim alav. They're not going to be merachem on Yisrael, and therefore they could kill him. So therefore, since Mesirat Mamon Yisrael to the Goyim could actually bring to killing of him, right? It's good that you went and you killed the Moser. Everyone understood what happened. Mamash, Rav Kahana came and he killed the guy. Huh? He killed him, of course. He killed him because he was going to be a Moser. Yeah, 1 second. Elmaleh Rav Kahana, says Rav Kahana. So Rav comes and he says, Kahana, Adaina avu parsae de la kapte shfichut damim. Until now, we were under the Persians. They're not makpid on shfichut damim. But now we're under the Yivanim. Yivanim are makpidim on shfichut damim. Ve'amri miradim. They're going to say, what? You're rotzeach. What are you going to do now? Kumsak la'arad Yisrael. Yeah, you have to come and you have to go to Arad Yisrael. Ekabel alach de la tikshel Rabbi Yochanan sheva shanim. Accept upon yourself that you're not going to ask questions to Rabbi Yochanan for 7 years. Yeah, Oziel, so he went. Ve'ashkechel de Shakish, right? Diati v'kamesem tivte de Yomel Rabbanan. So he went. So remember, Rav Kahana was a student of Rav. He went up to Eretz Yisrael because he was afraid, because he basically became a fugitive. So he ran up to Eretz Yisrael. Now but he had to accept upon himself that he's not going to ask for 7 years questions to Rabbi Yochanan. What happened is that he saw that Shakish was finishing the Metivta Diyoma Rabbanan. So what happened? Amar lehu. So Rav Kahana comes and he tells the Talmidim, Shakish Hechal. Where's Shakish? Amrule, they said, Amai, why? Amar lehu, he said, Hai kushia, vai kushia, vai peruka, viruka. He says, I have a kushia like this, a tirutz like this. I want to speak to him. Amrule le Shakish, right? They told her Shakish. Azar Shakish, Amar le Rabbi Yochanan. So he says, Ari ala mi Bavel. The Ari came up from Bavel. Laem ol memetivta lemachar. He says, no, look what's going on tomorrow. Lemachar otve berdara kama kamed Rabbi Yochanan. So they put him in the first row in front of Rabbi Yochanan to give him kavod. Amar shmatata, he said a shmatata velo akshi. He didn't ask. Shmatata velo akshi. He didn't ask. Anchute achor shavet. So they went and they brought him back 7 shurot. Ad deotve bedara, right? Bedara batra, until they put him on the last row. So Elmaleh Rabbi Yochanan el Shakish, right? Ari shamarta nasa shual. The Ari became a shual. What does that mean? We know, right, that obviously what we're talking about over here, the chokhmah is not just stump to ask questions; it's to understand. So therefore, at the beginning, he already knew Rav Kahana came from from Bavel. The Ari came. Now all of a sudden, the Ari comes. They put him on the front row to give him kavod, and he's not asking anything. He's quiet. So thinking, maybe he's not understanding. Maybe he's not. What's going on over here? So what happened? They put him back another row. It continued going all the way until the end. And then he comes and he says, the line became a fox. What's going on? So Amar says Rav Kahana, Yehe Rava Tehani Sheva Dare Leavi Chilu Sheva Shanin Damali Rav. Rav told him he's not allowed to ask questions for 7 years. Right? Halvai, imagine I go to relax. 7 years you're not allowed to ask questions. Yeah? Imagine how much we could accomplish. We could finish all of us. Yeah? So what happened? All of a sudden he comes and he says, you know what? The seven rows is going to be for the 7 years. Rav told me 7 years. I went back. I was disgraced 7 rows. So now I'm going, what happened? So he says, Kama kar'eh. He stood up. Amarle. And he went and he said, Nadar mor bereisha. Let's start from the beginning. Amar shmatata ve'akshe. Ukme bedarakama. Amar shmatata ve'akshe. Havra Yochanan aveyatin sheva bistarke. He said he was on 7 pillows. Every question that he asked, they would take out one of the pillows. Amar shmatata ve'akshile, until he could, and there was nothing underneath him, until he was on the ground. Now Rabbi Yochanan gavra sabahava. Rabbi Yochanan was zaken, and he had very, very long eyebrows. So Amar lehu, so he told the students, I want to see who this Rav Kahana is. So they picked it up, the frate. Now they saw his lips were like split. So he thought that he was laughing at him. Meaning he thought that Rav Kahana was laughing at him, that Kilu, he comes and he says that, he became a wolf, right? And all of a sudden he comes and he's bombarding him with so many questions that there's no answers to them, that all of a sudden he becomes nothing. So so he actually became Chalash, and Rav Kahana passed away. Rav Kahana passed away because he was Machlish Tatosh Rabbi Yochanan. Okay? Which, by the way, from here we learn a lot of Musar. Because even if Rav Kahana was actually greater, right, than Rabbi Yochanan, right, he wasn't allowed to cause him the Tsar, and therefore he didn't ask. And that's why the Derech Eretz is, you never ask somebody a question unless you know that they're in the sugya, that they are going to know how to answer it. That's very, very important. Lemachar amar lehu Rabbi Yochanan Rabbanan. So the next day, right, Rabbi Yochanan comes and he tells the rabbis, Chazitu lebavla hechavid. He said, what did you see? Right? How did he was laughing at me. Amrule, they said, Darke hava. Right? They said, no, he didn't have kavanah to laugh at you. That's the way he was. His lips, the way that he looked, it always looked that he was always laughing. But that's just the way that he's looked. So he went to the me'ara. Chaza dehava, right? Kuf Yud Zayin Mubet. Chaza dehava hadra le'achna. So he saw there was an achash, yeah, at the entrance, and nobody was able to go in. Elmaleh, he went to Rabbi Yochanan and told the Nachash, Achna petach pumach. Open up your mouth. V'yikanes harav etzel hatalmid. And the rabbi should come to the Talmid. That means Kilu Rabbi Yochanan was the rabbi, and the rabbi is going to the Talmid. Velo patach. No, it's not going to open. Shikanes chaver etzel chaver. So he said, you know what? That the friend should come into the friend. Kilu, they're both chaverim. Right? Lo patach. Shikanes Talmid etzel Rav. That the Talmid should come into the rabbi. That Rav Kahana was Kilu the rabbi, and he was the Talmid. Patachle. He opened up. Yeah, imagine, this is the snake doing this. So just to show you who was Rav Kahana. So Ba'ar Rachameh, right, he went, ve'ukme, and he amidoto. Elmaleh, he went and he told him, Ihava yadana dedarke damar hachi, if I would have known that this is the way that you are, lo chal shadati. Right? I wouldn't have done that. But hashta lete mor ba'adan. But now I want you to come back to us. Elmaleh, he says, Imatzit l'miver rechameh detulo shechivna, if you could, right? If you could come and ask for mercy that I'll never die, azilna, I'm going to go. Vilo, lo azilna. But if not, I'm not going to come. Right? Why? Hoil v'chalif shata chalif. Because since it went shat mitati, b'derech nes chalfa, right? Right? It was maybe what's going to happen is that I'm going to go. So taire ukmi, right? And he brought him back. V'shayle kol sveika dehavale. Right? He went and he asked Rabbi Yochanan all the svakot that he had. Upashtina niale, upashal lotan. V'hainu damar Rabbi Yochanan, and that's what Rabbi Yochanan came and he told his students. Dilchon amri, right? He says Dilchon amri. At the beginning, I said that the Torah shelachem, right? Why? Because kilu you guys weren't redeemed, right? But really be'emet dilhonhu. Really be'emet it's b'nei Bavel. Meaning even Rabbi Yochanan from Eretz Israel was from, right, Bavel. So it comes out that even though B'nei Bavel, they didn't have the Yeshuva Dat, like they're the ones in Eretz Yisrael, but their Chochman Torah was incredible. Okay? So that's what he comes and he says, right over here. So he comes now and he says, okay, it comes out that how long did he actually bring him up? So there's a whole question here because he was basically asking to live forever, and obviously that didn't actually, happen. Okay. So says the Gemara, there's another story now to do with the Moser. Hahu de achvi at maksa de Rabbi Abba. There was somebody that showed Pekidei Melech on a tachshit of meshi, on a silken type of a tachshit of an adornment of Rabbi Abba. Yativ Rabbi Avhu, Rabbi Chanina bar Papi. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, V'yati Rabbi Ila Gabayhu. So they were all sitting together. So you had Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Chanin, Rabbi Papi, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, and they were judging, and Rabbi Ila was by them as well. Savur l'chayuv mihaditran. They wanted to be mechayev from the Mishnah where it says Hadan et adin v'zikat hachayav v'chiyev et hazakai timet hator v'tiyar et hatameh ma she'asa asrui v'yishalem mibeto. Meaning they wanted to say 1 second to do it dinei mamonot if somebody makes a mistake. And they made a mistake in the psak. So because of the mistake in the psak, he was either mizakeh et hachayav or mechayev et hazakai, which means he gave the money to the wrong person, or it was mitamed et haor mitayar et hatameh. Right? Whatever is done, but they have to pay. So if the Dayanim have to pay, and that's going to be, right, the entire concept that we're talking about over here, and it's only going to be like Garmi, so therefore the same thing, if somebody's going to be Moser, he should be Chayav from that Mishnah. So Elmaleh Rabbi Lach, Yamarav, this is what Rav says, meaning this was a din, Rav saying, it's only if you picked it up and you gave it in your hands. Not if just thumb that the guy is forcing you. So Amri Lei, so they told him, Zile Gabed Rabbi Shimon ben Elakim Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat, Daine Dine de Garmeh. Go by Rabbi Shimon ben Elakim Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat, that they judge Dine de Garmeh. Hazal Gabed Chivim, Matniti, they said, you're going to be Chayav. Im Echmat HaGazlan Chayav Le'amid Lo Sadeh Acher, Ve'okim Nadach Ve'yachuleh. It's our Mishnah. Why do you have to bring a Mishnah from Bechorot to do the psak wrong din? I mean, they psaked wrongly, right? The bedin, you have it. Fine. Another story. How Gavra Davamivka Le'akasa de Kaspa, he had a kos of kesef. So imagine a silver cup. Sali Ganavi Lave. So Ganavim came and they wanted to kill him. Shakla Yava Lehu. So he took the kos and he gave it to them in order to be Mifayesotam. Ata lekamed Rabba, so they came in front of Rabbi Patra. He said he's going to be patur. Amalei Abaye says, "I matzil atzmo mon chavero." He says, "I don't understand. Somebody came and he gave you the cup to watch over it, right? Ganavim come, you want to appease them. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to give them the silver cup. Aywa, what's going on over here? The silver cup is not yours. You're matzil atzmecha b'mamon chaverocha."
Maybe he has nothing else to give. And
so he comes and he says, "Ela amar Ravashi." It's asur, obviously.
No, but
why should it be patur? You have to be chayav. It could be you could do it, but you still have to pay for it. Now, one second. One second. Ela amar Ravashi, but rather Ravashi answers, "Chazina ni'ini shamidu adaita dideatu." He says, we're going to check, is he a rich person or not? He says, why? If he's going to be an ashid, so therefore adaita dideatu. So therefore they're coming because of him. So now when he comes and he's saving himself with a cup of his friend, he's going to be chayav. But if he's not a rich person, adaita de kaspatu, the opposite. They only came because of the cup. So therefore when he gave the cup, that's what they came for. So he gave them the cup. Another story, right? The Gemara says it all depends. The Gemara says, טוב, אבל כתוב, מה שרבשי פסק. האו גברא דאבה מפקיד, מפקיד גבי ארנקה דפדיון שבויים. There was a person that he had an arnak of פדיון שבויים. סליקו גנבי לוי, again, גנבים came. שקלי יבני הליו, they took the arnak, ועתה לקמת דרבא, they came from Rabbi. פטרה, so it's going to be patur. Elmaleh, Abaye comes and he says, "Ve'amatzil atzmo b'mon chavero." He says, "What? He's matzil atzmo b'mon chavero." Elmaleh, he says, "Elecha pidyon shvuim gdol mizeh." That is pidyon shvuim. That's pidyon shvuim for himself. So therefore, he should be patur. Exactly. Hahu the gavra the active asichamra limara kamed slikuim shemibara. Says there was a person that was magdim and he went brought up his chamor to Ma'aboret before other people came to it, and then afterwards other people came to it. And then what happened was that he was going to bring down the entire Ma'aboret. So see, when he pushed off the chamor and he threw it into the river. Yeah, sometimes you push the chamor, he falls into the river. That's it. So what happens? Taba! He drowned. Yeah, he drowned. Yeah. Ata lekamed Rabba. They came in front of Rabba. Patre. He says it's going to be patur. Why? Elmaleh, he says, rodef ava. He says this is a rodef. So therefore, since he's considered rodef, right? So therefore, you're allowed to save him. So says the Gemara, Rabba letamen. Rabba comes in accordance to his reasoning. Rabba rodef shaya rodef achar chavero lorgo. Shiberet hakelim ben shel hanidaf ben shel kol hakelim. Right, shel kol adam is going to be patur. Sharem mitchayev l'nashom, meaning the rodef, since he's going to be chayav mita anyway, because you could kill him. So even if he breaks things along the way, you're going to be patur. V'anirdaf sheshiberet hakelim is going to be patur. Shelo yeh mamono chaviv alav migufo. That the money of the rodef should not be more chaviv than the body. Aval, however, though, shel kol adam is going to be chayav. Ta'asu la'atzil atzmo mamon chavero. You're not allowed to save yourself with the money of your friend. V'rodef sheyeh rodef achar rodef. Now, if you have a rodef that's running after a rodef, right, la'atzil, v'shiberet hakelim ben shel ben shel kol adam is going to be patur. Ve'lo min adin. It's not going to be really be'emet. It's not min adin that he should be patur. Ella sheimi ata omer. But if you're not going to say that, mean like this: if you have to come and save somebody, and on the way of saving this guy from the rodef, what's going to happen is you're going to be chayav. If you broke something, you'll never do it. I say, let him kill him. What do I care? Kaddish. I'm going to get involved. So really, be'emet min adin he should have been chayav. But just to make sure that people are going to continue coming and saving people, so therefore they're going to say they're going to be. So says the Mishnah Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Bet. Shetafa nahar. Right now, if somebody's going to steal a field from his friend, and all of a sudden the water comes and booms, floods it over. Omelo, he could say, here, this is yours, take it. Bechavod. So says the Gemara, Gozel sadeh mechavero. Shetafa nahar chayav le'amid lo sadeh ached. You have to give him another field. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Chachamim omrim lo, no, you could just say, here, this is yours. What is the machlok between Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Eliezer daresh ribui u'miyute. Rabbi Eliezer is going to be doresh a ribui u'miyut, which means an inclusion and exclusion. V'chichesh ba'amito is ribui. When you come and you say you're going to be machish, you're announcing that this is whether you have something. That's called a ribui. Pikadon, the collateral, is a mute. Or anything which you're going to swear falsely about it, that's again another ribui, an inclusion. You're adding everything, and therefore, even if it's not going to be domeh. Umay Rabbi, so what is it including? Rabbi Kolmil, it's including everything, even karkaot, which means even by a karka it's going to be the same thing. Right? That you have the same concept of Shavuot Pikadon and giving back the Gizela. Umay Miyet, what is it coming to exclude? Miyet Shtarot, it's going to come to exclude Shtarot. What does that mean? Right? The document. Right? That means the document is going to be a different halacha. Okay, that means it's not worth anything for itself. Remember, the document is only like going to bring you to something, but it's not actually something in itself. For Rabbanan, right, but the rabbis, and therefore, according to this, that's why they're going to say, since we speak about that also Gezel applies to karka, right, because that's what we're trying to include, even karka, so therefore he could come and say, Rabbanan darshi klalu uprati, but Rabbanan coming, they're going to say, right, darshi klali uprati uklali, klalu ufrat. So he says like this: Klal, what's the general rule? Is chesh bamito. Pepikadon is a prat, is specific. So generalization specifics. Omikol is a klal, right? Klal ufrat uchlal eatadan elaken haperat ma haperat davar mitaltel v'gufamon. Just like any the prat, the specifics is something which is going to be mitaltali, movable objects, and it's in itself worth money. So it has to be something of mitaltel v'gufamon. This comes to exclude karka shem mitaltalim. Yatzu avadim shukshu lekarkaot. It's going to come to exclude slaves which are hukash. They have a juxtaposition to karkaot. Yatzu shtarot, and it's going to exclude also shtarot because it in itself is not considered mamon. Shava bishem mitaltalim, en gufamon. It's like mamon. So therefore, if it comes out like this, so then what happens is that since Gizela is not noheg bekarka, right? So therefore he comes and he says, Im nensa, he could just say, Areshelcha lefanecha. Okay, so that's what we're saying. So says the Gemara, 1 second, right? According to this machloket, Ve'letanya gozelet ha'para u'shtafana har chayev yila'amilo para divre Rabbi Eliezer, v'chachamim omrim, Areshelcha lefanecha, hatama yikumak mipalgeh. What about there it's a para? Meaning here, one more time, we had a machloket Rabbanan, and meaning Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer, right? Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer. Chachamim say Areshelcha lefanecha. Rabbi Eliezer says Chayav la'amilo sader acher. We wanted to make the machloket depending upon whether karka could be stolen or not, and therefore can you say Areshelcha lefanecha or not? That's what, and it all depends whether you're learning klal ufrat uchlal, so then everything has to do with the prat, or whether it's riba miyut riba, so everything has to do with everything. It's coming to include everything because it's not the same concepts. So now, if you're going to come and you're going to tell me that's a pshat, so then what do you do now with a para? A para is obviously not karka. So therefore, what are you going to say now? Here again, Rabbi Eliezer comes and he says chayav lami lo para acheret, and Chachamim say Areshelcha lefanecha. So you can't answer me the same answer that you just answered now about klal ufrat uchlal riba miyot. Why? Because that was by karka, or maybe by avadim, which is ukash karkaot, or maybe. But there's a para. So there's a para. So what are you going to answer now? So that means that cannot be the machloket, obviously. So answers the Gemara, you're right. Amar Papa says, Ahatam ma'iskin, what are we dealing with over there? Kegon shegazal sadeh mechavero, you stole a sadeh from your field, va'ita para revutza bo. So the para was in the field, right? V'shatfa nahar, right? The Rabbi Eliezer l'tameh, and then the nahar came, and Rabbi Eliezer goes according to his reasoning, right? Rabbanan l'tamayon. The Rabbanan goes according to, that means each one goes according to reasoning, which means since the para was already in the field, and each one is going in his reasoning, can you say Areshelcha lefanecha or not? So therefore, that's what it's going to be, that we're talking about the entire concept of Areshelcha lefanecha or not, the machlok between Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer.